Good morning and welcome back to Miniature Monday here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we're going to be taking a look at another Battletech Force Pack released by Catalyst Game Labs. Now, in this case, it is the second Star League Assault Lance. Now, this actually comes with 4 brand new miniatures and one that's a little bit of a resculpt with already having a paint job. So, this is the second set that I've seen where they've done the pre-painted mechs. My understanding is there's supposed to be more coming, but we're going to take a look at that. I'll let you know what I think of the pre-done paint job and whether or not I think the rest of the set is worth it just from a quality of miniature perspective. Now, before we do that, do make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I try to put out a few videos each week covering all sorts of tabletop gaming content, whether it's miniatures, board games, role-playing, or anything in between. I also do some live streams, and we'd love for you to come along and see what we have to share. So, with that said, let's get into it. All right, so first up, we have the Emperor miniature. Now, this was originally released in Tech Readout 3058, so it's going to have some Dwayne Luce art coming up soon. And honestly, this is an interesting design. It's big, it's beefy. There's been quite a few of those. I like the look of this mech. Now, the head I do think is a little odd. It does look like he's looking up towards the sky, which is a little strange. I'm not sure why they ended up doing the sculpt that way. It has sort of a look like an atlas, but it's also really cartoonish. So while I'm totally fine with the rest of the mech, this particular look kind of threw it off for me. So I'm not upset, just not 100% on this particular model. Now, what about the art that we had with this? All right, so this is our first piece of art. This is the 3058 Emperor. Overall, the design is actually pretty accurate compared to more modern art. We'll get to that in a second, though. The head is a little bit different. This looks much more like a cockpit right here as opposed to the skull-looking face that we have on the miniature, but it's not too bad. Overall, it's got a big, broad shoulders, big cannons for arms. So, when we go to this more modern version, now this was from Experimental Tech Readout Primitives. This is a little bit closer to more modern art. Now, I didn't find any other art related to this particular mech, which I was kind of surprised about. So it may be in one of the Ill Clan recognition guides. If you know, please put it down in the comments. I'd love to get some more feedback on it. But so far from Asarna, these are the only 2 images we have of the Emperor. So yeah, overall, good design. The mech, the miniature itself does have a good upgrade, compared to the 2 pieces of art that we've got. Still has just like a little kind of weird cartoon face. So that is the Emperor. All right, now next up we've got the Argus. Now, originally released as part of Tech Readout 3067. It's kind of an odd looking mech. To me, it looks sort of like we're going to make do with the parts and the pieces that we can get a hold of. It doesn't look like it's the fanciest piece of military hardware, and it really, doesn't seem like it's got a ton of armor. But I actually think that kind of gives it a little bit of charm. It's very asymmetrical in its look. You've got the giant cannon arms in the right side with the drum magazine look for an LRM-10 on the left arm, and everything else, sort of makes it look like it was, designed as a prototype, maybe to test a particular weapons loadout. I don't know, but it's not a bad. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. It's not a great design. It doesn't, look amazing. It's like, oh my gosh, that's the mech that I want to pilot. But it also does have kind of a just straight up look. We're designing this for function as opposed to form. So I'm actually okay with it. The miniature looks really good, and overall captures the art pretty well. If we take a look at this particular piece from 3067, it looks a little bit different. We've got kind of this, ball turret here. The head and the torsos look a little different. These weapons here on the shoulders are much less pronounced on the miniature. Overall, it's not bad. It's a decent piece of art and pretty good representation for what we get in the miniature. There was a second piece of art. Now, this was actually kind of interesting. Instead of being in an Ill-Clan recognition guide, because clearly this is a piece of Ill-Clan art, but it was actually from one of the Battletech activity books released in 2024. They started doing these in, I think it was 2020, where they just collect some of the art and just made up different activities. It was put forward as just an activity that kids could do at home with their parents for, during lockdown. And so the fact that I haven't seen it in an Ill-Clan recognition guide or a TRO or something, kind of surprising. But regardless, nice look. I actually think it gets a nice, good upgrade. Absolutely captures the feel of the original piece of art, while, it's got a little bit of same factory syndrome going on, but not enough that I'm going to actually complain about it. So overall, good design, good look, and great representation of the art in miniature, and that is the Argus. Now, for our third mech, we've got the Helios, originally making its appearance in Tech Readout 3060. This looks like a bit of a brawler. It's kind of interesting having the missile pods up on the shoulders the way it does. The gun arms also are kind of interesting. The fact that they've got the kind of rounded upper arm, and then basically just going straight into guns. It's not a bad look. Overall, actually, I think this one's pretty sleek, pretty slick. I think it's a heavier mech, but overall not a bad design. I actually just looked it up. Comes in normally at about 60 tons, so it's not huge, but overall, I think I can have some fun with getting this painted up, especially coming in at the tail of Twilight of the Clans and the opening of FedCom Civil War. Definitely some very interesting art styles coming out around that time. So let's see, actually, let's take a look at the art. So this is our original appearance from Tech Readout 3060. I did find this a little interesting. You can't necessarily see the heel of the mech down here. It's probably just, obscured by some of this dust and clouds. But overall, nice, clean piece of art. I think the miniature actually softened up, or I should say hardened a lot of these curves. Lots of circles, lots of rounds going on the arms and the torso, but The miniature actually clean. Well, I don't want to necessarily cleaned, but changed a lot of that. Made it a little bit more rigid, a little bit more stiff. Now, this is actually the only piece of art that I was able to find. I did not see an Ill-Clan version of the art. So overall, while they still capture the essence of the mech, I mean, obviously you've got the giant gun in the right arm, the twin in the left, and the two pods on top of the shoulder. Overall, it's, you know, it's a pretty big departure, I think, from the art, but it's still a good mech. This one I would like to paint just because I think it's gonna have some fun designs. I did not do a whole lot of research as to where the mech came from. It's I'll have to do some more research on it, but overall, that's the Helios. All right, now next up, we're going to go with the coolant truck. Now, this was a little bit of a surprise to me that they added this in. You get 4 mechs out of the pack, and then they also just kind of throw in, oh, and by the way, here's this battlefield support piece. They don't have coolant trucks in any of the other packs that I recall. So, especially to kind of make this the only way you're going to get that was a little bit surprising. I'm not necessarily complaining. Actually, why do I want to say that there is a coolant truck somewhere else? Actually, I think I'm thinking of a battlefield repair truck. Well, I will have to research that one later. But overall, it was kind of interesting, especially for the cost on the pack. It was kind of nice to get a little bit of a bonus. I mean, that's essentially how I'm looking at it, because it can be used as an objective. It can be used. It can actually be used for the the fact that it's a coolant truck. So, can you run a mech really hot, get the coolant truck out there, cool it off? I don't know. Play with some interesting tactics. But it is nice that they're still doing little different things just, for fun. Now, as far as its art, we've obviously got this original one from 3025, maybe 3026. Nope, 3025. So originally from 3025 by Dwayne Luce, because he did all of the art out of that book. Okay, like 95% of the art out of that book. But regardless, good look. It's a truck. They did capture the little sunshades on the front, the little turret on the top, and the rounded tanks in the back. It's not crazy. It's a truck that brings out coolant. Now, they did do a second piece of art that I was able to find. There's probably a whole bunch more, scattered around the different Battletech books. But this is the second one that they had up on Sarna, which was from Tech Readout 3039. So, again, design still looks the same. It's a truck. It brings coolant. Hooray. So, overall, it's a good miniature, not complaining. So, that is the coolant truck. All right, now finally we have Prometheus, the custom direwolf piloted by Victor Steiner Davian. Now, this is how you're going to get the model out of the box. There's a couple of things, first off, that I have to say that I really, really like. The checker patterns on the ankles, on the sides of the mech, are great. They're obviously decals, because I don't care who you are, you're not painting it that well without, selling your soul or something. I don't know. I really do like the fact that they were able to pull that off. Overall, the coloring is fine. I think the yellow is a little more pale than I would have personally liked, but in general, I think the mech does pull off what it's trying to do pretty well. I also am not a fan of just the solid color for the cockpits, mostly because I have kind of changed up how I paint cockpits. And I think with how large this cockpit is, it just looks very, very flat. Um, the cockpit glass is going to be a bit more reflective, so it would have been nice to have some sort of shading on it. I like the color. I think the bright orange contrasts really well with the blue. So there is that. But again, just my own personal opinion there. Otherwise, it looks good. I like the rotary autocannon in the torso, the lasers in the arms, and the other side torso and the SRM-6 in the on the top of the torso. Overall, for a pre-painted miniature, I'm really not complaining. If I were to pick it out to play with, I honestly wouldn't be complaining. Because it's a decent paint job. I am honestly not going to do better than this, especially with the fact that I don't have all of the decals to make this happen the way that they did. So overall, it's a decent and solid figure. And especially since for the entire pack, this is the only mech that's been repeated. Everything else is brand new. All three of the mechs and the coolant truck brand new to this set. Now, just because I can, if you've been watching any of like my paint streams or my miniature showcase, you'll see that I, paint up all of my stuff in variety of patterns. I don't follow a specific look to, like one particular faction. So I actually did my own Victor, or my own Prometheus. So I'm going to put them back to back so that way you can kind of get a look at them. Mine does have its own flaws. I will say that up front. But also, it'll let you see two different sculpts for the mech side by side. So bear with me for a moment. All right, so here we've got both of the Prometheuses. Promethei? I don't know, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to admit some of my flaws. The yellows is not as well done as the checkerboard patterns. I do like the fact that my yellow is a bit brighter than the one that they used for their Prometheus, but I can absolutely understand the trade-off. Obviously, you're going to be able to see a little bit different as far as like the sculpt and the pose. The Prometheus that I did does not have the weapons in the torsos. Instead, it has the venting. This was obviously one of the early dire wolves that they put out. Mine, the wash was maybe a little bit stronger. Overall, I was happy with the cockpit, although I did use an older style. Again, this is a much older paint job that I did. So I painted it with just regular flat paints instead of the silver and the gloss that I kind of use nowadays. So overall, it's got a bit of a different look, but I'm pretty happy with it. Especially up next to the factory painted one. It's actually kind of cool because I actually see some different things that I like that on mine, or things that I like on the factory one. So honestly, I kind of like having both. So overall, I'm going to give it an absolutely positive recommendation as far as the pre-painted direwolf is concerned. So while both of those are spinning around, let's take a look at the art for the direwolf. So this was our original direwolf art that we got out of Tech Readout 3050, not upgrade, not revised, not whatever. This is the original one. I love these blueprint styles. Even though you can't necessarily see the depth that you want, They were just fun. These are just like ingrained in my memory. All right, we then had this as the Ill Clan version. This was done by Matt Plog in 2019. Now this is going to be the styling that I used for my Dire Wolf. But then we've got a couple of pictures of Victor's Prometheus. So we've got this one. Again, you can see the shinier cockpit. So we've got that. Just again, the yellow lines, the check patterns. So even Catalyst, it looks like, made some changes because they've just got a straight autocannon instead of a rotary. The energy weapon is in one of the ports instead of directly in the center. So even they made some modifications to the design. There's a different layout for the SRM6, but overall, we're nitpicking at this point. All right. And then we've got this version, which, what was this from? It says missing artist, missing source. Okay, so we have no idea. But a much more stylized piece on this. Clearly, it could be used for cover on a book. Honestly, if you know where this piece of art is from, put it in the comments. Let everyone know. Maybe we can get Sarna updated. But yeah, so we've got a much older rendering of Prometheus in color, and I like it. It's older, it's rougher, but it's not a bad piece of art. So overall, what do I recommend as far as the second star League Assault lands? To be honest with you, if you're a completionist, this is kind of a no-brainer. You get 3 new mechs and the vehicle, plus you're going to get a pre-painted Prometheus. Now, I was kind of curious about the way they were going to do the pre-painted mechs. I thought it was very odd that you were going to have a pack with just 1 figure painted when you're getting 4 or 5 out of the whole pack. And I didn't think that was a wise decision. However, I think this approach in the 2 packs that they've done so far, one, you get Alexander Kerensky, and then the second, you get Victor Steiner Davian. So they're making the pre-painted mechs named, known characters from the Battletech universe, so that if you want those particular paint jobs, you can get it. I admit, I don't think I'm a very good painter. A lot of people disagree, but whatever. And so to have something that's a little bit more professionally done, to have decals, things like that, I think those are absolutely selling points and make this worth buying even if it's pre-painted. And then on top of that, guess what? If you don't like the paint job, you think Victor Steiner Davian's a Mary Sue, whatever, you can paint over it. It's not a problem. Honestly, I think this set, even though the other 3 mechs I really didn't know, I think this hit it right out of the park. I think these were great choices. They're fun designs. I am super happy to have purchased this this particular set. So, with that said, what do you think? Did I get something wrong? Did I, do you think I have a bad opinion? Put it down in the comments. Let me know. I'd absolutely love to hear from you. But with that said, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up. There will be affiliate links to like DriveThruRPG, Amazon. They help out the channel, but you're under absolutely no obligation to use them. But thanks for watching, and we will talk to you next time.